There's been a couple times, let's say maybe you had one or two beverages and you let a troll have it and that got you banned. Will you get banned again in 2022?
You need to put a line on this. Actually, you should put a line on it, like what the plus minus is.
I'd love to.
And we'll see what people say. I'm going to say no because I don't want to get my account fully banned.
There's only one way out from here, and that's up.
You are watching WAGMI, the podcast for crypto traders. On today's show, I'm joined by Ansem. He's a full-time trader and all-around Chad. And we talk about his 5 big ideas for the 2022 bull market. When the bull market resumes, 5 things that you need to pay attention to, be bullish on, be buying, probably, not financial advice, but good things to check out. One quick note, this did come out like a month ago on iTunes and Spotify, but my editor is really slow, really behind right now on the YouTube videos. But now that they're rolling again, they're going to be coming out every single day. All the old episodes and the new ones with new trade ideas, themes to watch, everything happening in the market. It's all going down right here on the show. So be sure that you guys subscribe for that. Hit that little red button down below. I'm stuck at 27,000 subscribers. I've been stuck here for like a year. Please get me to 30,000 subscribers. So drop a like right down below if you guys enjoy this video. All right, it's time to get back into it with Ansem, talking 5 big ideas for 2022 when the market gets bullish. Enjoy the show. I'll see you in the next one. Potential on the verge of World War III. And we just crazy shit going on the Twitter timeline, dude. I honestly expected to talk to you about play to earn, maybe some DeFi kingdoms, some themes we should be watching, and now we got Putin invading Russia and the market's nuking. I mean, what do we even do, man?
Dude, I have no idea. I feel like every day I log on Twitter, it's something crazy going on. Like literally all month has been happening, dude. I don't really know what's gonna happen next.
Is that crypto doing that to us? Because I think kind of crypto warps the sense of like time in a way. Everything feels faster, but it's also like it does feel like there's just more events happening each week. We had the hack. We have the largest seizure in U.S. history, a $3 or $4 billion seizure. We have a TikTok rapper get arrested for that. Then we have, the events don't stop. I'm probably leaving like 3 giant ass events out this week. And now we have this today and potentially a Coinbase hack. It's like, what is going on?
Dude, like ever since COVID in 2020, I feel like we've been trending more and more towards the absurd. And like at first I thought it was just crypto stuff, but then crypto started getting intertwined with all the macro stuff going on. So now I really have no idea what's happening, dude. It's crazy.
Maybe it's a simulation. I don't know, but someone's turned up the difficulty level. It seems like lately,
extremely high.
Yeah,
extremely high.
Someone's toggling the settings in our thing, man. It feels like this week I'm having on the whole cast of Crypto Untitled. I just had Avi Feldman on the other day. You just launched one of the biggest shows now in crypto. I don't know where you guys take that. I mean, Kobe's going to be the next Joe Rogan, so like don't forget about the little guys. How's that been launching a new show?
Dude, it's been awesome, man. It kind of sprung up out of nowhere. Started talking to Kobe about it a little bit after the Up Only one I got featured on with Hentai Avenger. But yeah, it's been real cool. It's pretty chill. Everybody on there is super smart. Melton is super smart. Avi's super smart. So it's cool just to chat and not really have any pressure to like answering questions and stuff. Just like kind of chill and talk about crypto because we're all in it all the time, but for me, I've never really been talking like about it that much. Like I tweet all the time, but I'm never really in like a public speaking or anything like that. So it's been cool for me to kind of do.
I was going to ask you about that too. Like I followed you for years. I don't know how many years, but it seems like last year, like you might have kicked it up a notch. Like maybe, I don't know if it was the trading or investment performance, or I don't know if it was, you used to have this quoted tweet and it was like, imagine letting, I'm going to blank out the word, but people can guess. Imagine letting, redacted outwork you. And I love that quote. I absolutely love that quote. But it seems like you kind of like really took that to heart last year. And I don't know if it was you just crushed it in the market. So it was like, all right, I'm going to turn up the research, or it was I'm going to write some more articles. Like what if you had to pin it, because I'm constantly trying to do this myself of like, let's say I had a good quarter. Let's say I had a shit month. It's like, what was I doing right? Was I not working out? Was I not, keeping track of things? Was I not managing risk? Like, what was it if you could pin it to one thing last year that helped you have such a big year?
Well, for me, it was really about realizing opportunity. Because I've been kind of in crypto on and off since 2017, which is when I graduated college. And I was like working and doing crypto on the side, but I was never really like all in crypto. Like, if you know what I mean, like I was trading whatever exchanges, Bittrex and all the other stuff, buying alts and stuff. But in 2018, I held a lot of things down, like all the way through the bear market, and like never really realized how much money I left on the table, like that first cycle. So my first cycle, like 2017, 2018, that was when Bitcoin was like the main focus. I think I first bought when it was like 3K. And then it ended up going to like 20K, and alts did crazy stuff after that too. So like for me, I wasn't really paying attention in 2019, 2020, and I kind of like early 2020, and I kind of missed like the first DeFi summer. And I was kind of upset about that because like I was the one that had been out of my friend group that had been like all in crypto, like the person who knew like more about crypto than everybody else. But I kind of missed the whole work that went in like going on during the bear market because I wasn't paying attention and prices were just down. So for me, it was like in late 2020, I realized that we're getting another cycle, like another crypto cycle, and I don't want to miss out this time how I missed out last time. Really wanted to make sure I take advantage of the opportunity that's there because you don't get stuff like that very often. So that was my whole thing, man. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna be the guy not paying attention and like not holding on to profits. So that was it for me. It was just like I know the opportunity is there, and I've already seen one cycle, so I know what to do. It's just about taking advantage, really.
Yeah. What's weird about, like, I was around that 2017 was my first year as well. I remember that dip to 3K or 2K and genuinely thinking it was probably over. It was like, oh shit, I haven't made enough. Really, I almost have no money. Guys, we got to run this back. And it's like a constant thing each cycle almost, where it feels like if you didn't capture enough or you missed out on something, like it's no matter how much money you have, like there could be someone listening with a $10,000 portfolio or $2 million. It's always like a feeling of, damn, like I probably could have played that a little better. And if I don't get another swing at the bat, like I missed it. But what's weird is, after 2017, 2018 alt cycle, then we get DeFi summer that you just talked about. After that, when the DeFi game ended, it was like we get a whole play to earn cycle. Then we got a whole Solana, layer 1 cycle last year. There's always, it feels like another game, which is what makes this place. It's why no one ever leaves, I think. I mean, eventually it will all be over, but I don't think it's over yet.
Yeah, dude, it keeps evolving too. And I was like, so this time we have like all the DeFi stuff and like cross-chain, like multi-chain, like stuff on bridging between different chains and all of that. We had none of that in 2017. In 2017, we were looking at like website updates and like announcements. So we were like, oh, this is gonna go up because somebody said something might happen in the future. Like I remember, what was one of the big ones I remember? You remember Monaco? Yeah, so Monaco is now like crypto.com, I think. But I remember Monaco and like, I don't know if the Wolf, I don't know if you remember Wolf. Like
I know
Twitter.
Wolf. I met up with him in Miami. I've hung out with Wolf several times.
Yeah, so I was like, I remember Wolf was tweeting, like he tweeted somebody had like leaked a website page that had like Visa Monaco
partnership. I remember the day, bro. I remember that.
We were like, and it went like 200% up, like in literally like hours. That was the big stuff for us. Now we have like actual like crypto companies like buying stadiums, literally. Like it's insane the difference in like capital, but also in like the amount of things that you can really do in crypto now versus last cycle. So
right. Yeah,
I'm fully in the camp that stuff is going to keep innovating, and we're always going to have things that are like the main trends at the time. I think it's just going to be like stocks, honestly. Yeah.
The complexity increases. It's like you can use previous cycle knowledge, and now you have to. Like back then, you could join the game. Thankfully, I'm very glad. I guess I was lucky, but also a little bit. I didn't even feel early, but I guess I was early enough. Joining the game now, it's like, man, it'd be tough to really dive in and be like, I'm a specialized in DeFi. It's like you'd have to have so much prior knowledge, even just of the culture, to be like, no, that guy does have good info, or it'd be so hard. But being able to kind of build on that, I think, is huge. And all right, so that transitions us to this year because you wrote another report, your outlook for 2022. And based on the report you wrote in 2021, obviously you got to be feeling the pressure a little bit. It's hard to repeat like that because you You hit it. You hit a homer with that one. So I kind of want to walk through, and no pressure on you. I just want to kind of walk through the themes of what you expect to happen in 2022, because it's so funny, man. Like, people publish these. It was January last month. Everyone's publishing the year-long outlook, right? Like, everyone publishes them, and they give these price targets. They give this, and we're 1 month into the year, and like almost all those projections are already wrecked. And it's like, it's so funny because the best trading opportunities, at least for me personally, if I look back on last year, I wouldn't have been able to predict any of those at the beginning of the year. Like Axie Infinity, one of my best plays it came because I had Delphi on the podcast and they walked through it. I saw the opportunity and I was like, this is mispriced. Even if everything is flat, like this should be up a tiny bit. And then eventually things did go up a ton and it went up, 10x plus, 20x plus. So it's funny how like the predictions don't matter so much, but I do think having some areas to look are super, super crucial, and you lay some of those out. So I kind of want to walk through those. I'm going to go down the list. The first one, we got sustained prominence of the multi-chain DeFi trend, existing L1s getting bigger, layer 0 like Cosmos gaining ground. It was one of the biggest trends last year, Solana, AVAX, Luna. I think everyone knows about that. Obviously, it's fizzled out a little bit, but what do you think that means for 2022, right? Like, we know what it meant last year with Solana, AVAX, and Luna, and those gaining serious market share. But, like, is it going to be Solana, AVAX, Luna again? Let's start with those three. Do you think those can actually have years where they outperform ETH again? Is that going to happen? Because they're all up 10 million X right now.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually pretty confident that they do outperform ETH. But it's mostly like strictly from a growth perspective. So like last year, I think there was a lot of disbelief around the L1 trade because in 2017, 2018, we had like stuff like EOS, like Neo and stuff like that. And none of those even came close to like eclipsing Ethereum. So a lot of the Ethereum like devs have been like, oh, we've seen this already. Like, we're not going to pay attention to any of these all L1s. Like, they're not doing anything. So like, I think really last year, the focus was on the actual tokens like Solana, AVAX, Luna, them doing their growth. Like, they all did 100x, if not more than 100x. This year for me, it's not, I don't expect them to do 100x again, but I don't think those ecosystems are going away. I think that the developer communities that have like sprung up around like AVAX and Solana and Luna, I think those are going to continue to grow. And I think that the DeFi ecosystems there are going to continue to grow. I do think they're competing with like the L2s of Ethereum, because Ethereum's roadmap, as you know, is like focusing on converting Ethereum to more like the data availability and settlement layer, and then moving the execution to rollups. So I do think they're competing with rollups there. But from my point of view, there's no reason that multi-chain ecosystem is not going to continue to thrive and exist. Just because like there's so many people joining crypto. Like, I don't think that there's, even if like with the influx of people that we're getting joining crypto, there's no way they all go to Arbitrum, or there's no way like they all go to Optimism and don't touch Solana or AVAX. Like, I feel like they're going to try basically everything that's out there. And I think that the people that are behind these dev communities on these all-01s are also really smart, and they have their own plans for how they want to scale and get new users. So I definitely think, from my point of view, I think they're going to outperform Ethereum. That's partially because I think that Ethereum being solely settlement and data availability and not the execution layer, it's kind of a different like value proposition. And I don't think the market has really figured out how to value that yet. I think that if these rollups have tokens, which I know that like ZK Sync like 2.0 is probably going to have a token. I don't know if Starknet is going to have a token. I think Arbitrum may have one. But if those have tokens, it's like, how do you value the execution layer versus the settlement layer? And does that mean that Ethereum is going to grow as fast as these other L1s, which are like 1/10 of the size still? So from my point of view, I think there's more upside in the L1s, but I don't think they're going to do 100x again. But yeah, that's how I've been thinking through it.
That trend last year. Like, if I had to rant, it was one of the most fun for me. And thankfully, I'm just dumb enough to kind of believe in things. Like, I remember Hoska was tweeting, it was like other layer ones had already ripped. Solana I sold way too early. Like, I sold it before it got to $10. I was one of the people that bought it when Sam was joining at like $1 and then sold before 10. So like, I missed that boat. But when he was tweeting and I got into AVAX, I was just dumb enough to like be like, all right, I think this could also go to all time highs, and that was a great win for me. But it's like I did always have in the back of my mind of like, am I buying another EOS? Am I buying another Tron that's just going to go up for a tiny bit and then perpetually underperform ETH? And you brought up a good point. It doesn't even have to do so much with like the price. Really, it's just the growth of those ecosystems. So that's something that these have that those other ones didn't. In a sense, you were buying a white paper back then. If you were buying Tron or EOS, it was like an idea that these could be faster and scale better, but like they never did. With these, we actually have seen them do that now continually for like 8 months in a row, maybe almost 12 months in a row. So I'm kind of glad that you brought that up. I'm curious if you think more of the attention those shifts to phone. We only got like 1 month of this rotation, it feels like. So when I say that, for people listening that aren't familiar, Phantom, Atom, Harmony One, and Near are this new group of layer ones. And in crypto, there's always a game of, okay, this token's gone up enough. I want to find a new one that can go up more. And it kind of feels like people are doing that with these new layer ones. Do you think those are better bets in 2022 for people, or still Solana, AVAX, Luna? Like eventually when you move too far down the risk curve, sometimes you get into trouble. So like, how do you think that group plays out versus Solana, AVAX, and Luna?
So I think it's tough. I really like I like Harmony because of how much it's done with like GameFi, as you know, DeFi Kingdoms. And like other games on Harmony, I think that's kind of what separates it from like other chains right now. But just like the chain itself hasn't been doing that well. Like with like people have had issues with like the RPCs and all this other stuff. I think that there's a reason that Solana, AVAX are like the top three, and like the reason is because those are like the three most performing, and they have the three like most attention, most mind share. I think for the other ones to catch up, it's kind of like they need to take some of that mind share away from the big three. I think that's kind of going to be difficult to do. They are much smaller, so I think that if they are able to be successful in that, then of course they'll catch up. But it's kind of tough. I think it's tough to bet against like Solana, Luna, AVAX right now. That's what I would say. I think Near is interesting because Near and Harmony, because they do sharding, which is kind of like a different architecture, like software architecture, than Solana and AVAX and Luna have. So I think that's interesting. But right now, Near is young in its ecosystem, as in like there's not really that much you can do. They have like Aurora, which is the EVM like L2 that they have, but there's not a lot on there. Like there's not a lot really focused on there. I think that you need users that like are really gung-ho about your ecosystems. Like AVAX has that. Like AVAX has, everybody has a red triangle on Twitter. Like they have those people that are like not leaving. And I think same with Solana. So I think honestly, I kind of go back and forth on this. I'm not sure which is more important at the beginning for these other smart contract ecosystems, is whether it's like the business development side of getting people to believe in your chain before it's fully like developed, or is it like the technical side of things, or is it like a combination of both? And like where does the importance lay on that? So I think it's a combination of those two things. Like Solana having FTX and SBF and Tom Brady and all those people is like a huge, like it's hard to compete with that from just like getting new users.
It's the chicken and egg problem. The incentive programs, I feel like they're the spark. I mean, that's definitely what did it for Avalanche. I know Near's trying that as well, with 3 Arrows Capital leading that massive round and Tiger Global being in there.
Yeah,
we'll see, man. They have to spark it, but then they do have to somehow attract a big enough group, and you need retail inflow. So that's also like that was easier last year when the market was booming. Unless the kind of market picks up, I think it'll definitely be harder for phone. Like I was super hype on Phantom, Near, a couple of these things beginning of January, and then obviously as things kept sinking, it's like, not that those can't do great later this year, but it's going to be really tough to kind of match the community growth that some of these other ones did. And those are like external factors, like Phantom, Near, One, Atom. They could all execute really well. Harmony can execute really well, fix the performance issues. But if you don't have people coming into crypto trying to get rich, at the end of the day, that means there's people. Yeah, there's less people trying to use your chain as well. So,
and that's kind of part of the issues with like the rollups too. Like I feel like on the marketing side, some of the L2s, the Ethereum L2s, aren't really that hard on marketing as like AVAX and others are. Like if I go up to a random person that doesn't know much about crypto, they'll know what Ethereum is, but they likely will not know what Arbitrum or Optimism are. Like and even if I do say that and they're like, oh, I might have heard of that, they're not going to link that to Ethereum. So like that story needs to be told better, in my opinion, to get like non-crypto people using rollups, because right now it's just like the .eth people that are very into the tech and know Ethereum's like 5 to 10 year roadmap. Those are the people that are like excited about rollups right now, and people like us who are in crypto 24/7. But like people that are external to crypto, I think they're not really focused on that right now.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I honestly am not that excited about Arbitrum and those stuff. Like I haven't used them either. Like, and maybe I'm just an idiot, but I just haven't either. They do need a token.
Yeah, I think they do. I really do think they need a token, because if you're a user, okay, and you have the same experience on Arbitrum, because it's really fast. I mean, the fees are pretty much cheap as AVAX, maybe slightly more expensive. But like if you have the same experience on AVAX as you do on Arbitrum, where are you going to go if you can make money on the AVAX token and all the other new stuff that isn't on ETHDeFi that's on AVAX DeFi? Like, like if that's like your main goal is just profit, you're going to AVAX. So I think that L2s need to realize that, and I do think most of them need tokens, because that's like a big draw for people.
Well, Arbitrum has size, Chad. We'll see. I know he's helping them with something. We'll see what he can drum up. The guy is an absolute Chad, so I'm sure he'll come up with something. I'm also curious, if you're listening or watching this, hit me up on Twitter or comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. I'm curious how many of you have played around on Arbitrum, or if you just prefer something like AVAX, because I don't. Maybe I'm super late, but I just feel like so many other people ignore it too, because there's not a token. But definitely a trend to watch. That's going to be the big story. L1s aren't going away. Next one up, you got, and this one's too big brain for me, so I'm gonna let you kind of riff on this. You said modular blockchain architecture is going to get closer to mainnet with specializations of those different layers. So data, execution, settlement. My question is, like, what do I bet on here, man? I read that and I'm like, ticker? Can you help me out here?
Dude, yeah. I think like the modular blockchain thesis is one that's like very in its infancy. And I don't think we're really going to see why it's important until we have like 10x, maybe even 100x the amount of users that we have right now. And that's why people can kind of ignore it and be like, oh, that's just Ethereum people talking about tech. Like, but like if we're going to scale to like multi-millions of people using this stuff daily, I think that the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we have like application specific blockchains, and also blockchains that are only focused on one part of this layer, this stack. So like execution layer is essentially what Ethereum wants these L2s to focus on, and then they want Ethereum to be like the data availability and settlement layer. And the reason for that is like it's hard to do everything on one blockchain. Like blockchains are not really meant to be as efficient as like traditional Web 2 stuff is built. And because of that, if you want to maintain these attributes of like decentralization and having everybody be able to like verify what's going on with the chain, the only way really to do that is to break things down modularly. So like closer to mainnet, what was I referencing? So right now, a lot of the rollups like ZK Sync 2.0 is not out yet. I don't think, what else is not really out? So like Arbitrum and Optimism are out, but they haven't really decentralized their like block producers, I want to say, like their sequencers, like that still is like a centralized part of these rollups. So that still needs to happen. That needs to mature. And then Ethereum, like the merge hasn't happened yet. They eventually want to have like data sharding and like multiple shards. So that's like not even until like late this year, I think maybe even next year. Yeah. And then stuff like Celestia. So Celestia is focused purely on data availability. And then they want to use multiple rollups. They want multiple rollups to use their blockchain strictly for like data availability. Which is like, so like when a rollup is like doing its fraud proofs or what's the validity proofs, which is like the ZK stuff. They essentially have to relay that information back to another chain. And Celestia wants to be focused purely on the data availability side. Some stuff it's kind of hard. It's very technical, but I think that in the future, I think it's more going to be the trend next year. But I would say in the future, it's going to have to happen. Like I don't think blockchains are going to be able to do every single part of the stack if we're going to scale to like multi-millions of people.
Right. And that's the problem that we keep. I mean, it's why layer ones, in a sense, there's a lot of reasons they popped up, but it's why we played this game. It's why the whole game formed last year. It's a constant game of this one can scale a little bit better. Sure, we give up some decentralization, but this one might be better for the future. And it's like a constant push and pull of should we go that far away from decentralization? And this, in essence, if I understand correctly, is a way that maybe it actually is a solution where we do maintain most of the decentralization.
Yep.
But it allows for optimization there. So, all right, something to keep an eye on. As I said, I'm gonna wait for Hosker. I'm just gonna wait for the ticker, man. I'm on Twitter enough that I'll see the play. But I appreciate you putting it on the radar. Next one. This one's the most exciting to me. I mentioned at the beginning. It's because Axie Infinity has a special place in my heart, man. That was not only one of my best trades, but like genuinely one of the most interesting things maybe I've like seen in my life. Like I think a lot of people knock play to earn, but Axie diving into that ecosystem first off because I just thought I could make a lot of money. But then like after a month or so, I was like, I should actually understand what's going on here. Yeah. And so I dove in, I played the game. I was playing like 3 or 4 hours a day. I got up to, top 1,000 or 2,000 players. I had a breeding farm with like 100 Axies. So I dove head first. And you talked a lot about your next call is that these play to earn economies growing and finding ways to sustain, and multiple of them coming out, not just one play to earn that everyone plays, but this is obvious. People look at Axie and there's going to be more, and there already is. So one of the ones that you've been huge on is DeFi Kingdoms. It's been a giant. I know it was massive last year. It's one of those ones that I just always felt late. There's always a coin like out there for someone like Solana. I should have jumped back on, but obviously hindsight's 2020. DeFi Kingdoms was one of those for me as well. What is DeFi Kingdoms? Because I think there's some similarities with Axie Infinity, but I also still think it's slept on. I know you and SatStart were super early to that ecosystem. You guys talk about it a ton. I've seen some people like diehard DeFi Kingdom fans. So what even is that for the people listening that are like, what is this game? Is there still an opportunity for me? How does it work? Big picture.
So high level DeFi Kingdoms is a multi-chain DEX, and it's also a game. So like in the game, there are these NFTs, which are called heroes. And these heroes that you can buy in their marketplace in game. You can use them to summon other heroes. You can use them to do quests. In the future, you'll be able to compete against other people in PvP. So if you ever played any games, kind of like World of Warcraft or stuff like that, where you have a character and you like level them up, they have certain professions like fishing, foraging, mining. So they have like professions that they do. And then when they do those professions, they'll get like in-game items that you can buy and build potions and stuff. And then like as you level up your hero, you get different abilities, or like you get to add to their stats. And eventually you'll be able to like compete against other people, like I said, in PvP. So it's like a game. It's also a DEX. Why it really struck out to me is because I played a lot of games like when I was younger. And I've never seen anything in crypto that really piqued my interest. Like this is like a traditional game that I've played before. And when I saw like the heroes with quests and abilities, I'm like, oh, this is like World of Warcraft. It's just crypto. And that was like really big. That was one of the things like in crypto it's rare that something clicks like really that quickly for me. But it was easy for me to understand because I spent so many hours playing World of Warcraft. So yeah, I was really early on that because like it was actually part of the L1 trade. Like, when you like find a new L1, there's a DEX, there's usually a money market, there's usually a dog coin. So you like if you're like early to the L1 trade, you find
that's
those
all there
three.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's like the base layer. And I was like, okay, what's the DEX on Harmony? Nobody's talking about Harmony. There's got to be something over there that I can be early to. So I found like the other DEX was called like Viper Swap. And I looked on DeFi Llama, and I was looking at the other applications listed, and the other one was DeFi Kingdom. So I'm like, okay, what's this? So I clicked on it, and they have like an entire map for like the game, the app. And it's like, I was like, what? I've never seen a DEX that has like a map with all the different features of the game. So I'm like clicking around, like just clicking around doing stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is completely different from anything that I've ever seen before. And that's when I was just basically moved all my funds I had on Harmony. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna all in this. So yeah.
And what was the biggest win for you with that? Like for me, Axie Infinity, the token, did very well because it was a way to kind of buy or own that game. It's a player-owned game, so the revenues they earn go back to the token holders. But also, the actual NFT that you use to play these games, it's a core feature of a lot of these games. You have to own an NFT to play the game. Those NFTs can evolve. You can make more of them. Right? They're kind of integral to anyone interacting with it. What was the way to play? Like people talk about Jewel as kind of the in-game currency in that game. I know you said you have heroes. Like what has been the biggest winner, and what do you still think is the best way for people to play it? If they get excited after listening, they're like, all right, I'm gonna check out DeFi Kingdoms. Should they just be looking at owning the game in a sense by owning Jewel, or do they want to own heroes? Like what was good for you, and how do people play it, you think, going forward?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way I made the most money was off Jewel, like the actual token. So DeFi Kingdoms is actually novel in the way that they didn't have VCs fund any of their operations early. The way that they incentivized people to play the game was by like having really high rewards for their liquidity pools early on. So like in August and September, the APRs were like really high. They were 5 figures. But they counteracted that by locking a lot of your rewards. So I think earlier it was like 95% of the rewards were locked and 5% were unlocked. And then as time progressively went on, there was like more are unlocked and less are locked. So being early in that regard, like being in the LPs was a big win. And then like the actual token Jewel, because it was so small when I first found it, like sub 100 million, maybe like sub 50 million market cap. So that was a big win. I actually have not really made that much on the actual heroes. Like I haven't, but that's because like I was so focused on like playing the game. Like I was like, I'm gonna get all the best heroes, and like summon the best heroes for PvP later. And I still have that. Like I think I'm like a top 10 or close to top 10 holder like of the NFTs in game, just because I was so excited and hype about like playing PvP later when it eventually comes out, because the time spent leveling up your heroes now gives you a huge advantage later, because you're going to be like higher. You're going to have more skills, like you're going to have higher stats. And leveling those heroes up also gives you access to more stuff in game. So like one of their new features that they're coming out with soon is like land. And to get land, you have to have like higher level heroes to be eligible to like buy and stuff like that. So the land is going to be used for like guilds of like multiple people to like join up, and like they'll have certain advantages with questing, certain advantages with like farms, certain advantages in that way in the game. I would say if you're new, I would probably go. So it depends. If you're like looking for long term, I think the heroes are going to have a bigger return just because they can level all the way to 100. And if you think the game is going to exist in the future, then having a level 1 hero versus having a level 100 hero, I think the return on that is going to be big, because you can't buy your way to level 100. You have to buy a level 100 hero. So like if you have whales coming in the game later and they want to compete in PvP, they're going to buy the best heroes on the market. And if you've spent the time leveling them, then you have like a huge advantage there, and you should be able to make a good profit on reselling them. If you're like more short-term, medium-term, I would say probably focus on the token, because you can stake it in the bank and you get like 30% of all trading rewards on the DEX. Plus the new expansion with Crystal Veil coming out on AVAX, you'll need the single stake Jewel to get the power token Crystal, which is like the Jewel of AVAX. So I would say probably do that. Like if you're more short-term focused on price, I'll buy Jewel, stake it, and then wait for Crystal Veil and do that. That's probably what I would do.
That makes sense. It's funny, man. It's the exact same thing for me with Axie. Like AXS was the biggest winner. I actually think my Axies could have been, like the farm was doing well. You breed the Axies and then you sell them. I'm sure it's a slightly different mechanic for for DeFi Kingdoms, but
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, there's always a meta to the game, like there is with Call of Duty, like there is with any game. There's a meta, so there's going to be better players. Well, the players are NFTs, so as I'm playing this, and you get more kind of addicted to the game, you want to be good, and the competitor in me, I was like, I was like, I want to move up. I'm getting crushed, and so I just started, instead of like breeding what would make the most money, I was like, fuck that, I'm gonna start breeding things that are winning. So and then also buying axes that are winning, which obviously is expensive. So it's like the axes overall themselves, like the actual creatures, I'm probably break even or maybe even down slightly on. I think I was up in dollars, down in ETH a little bit, but the Axie token obviously was a bigger winner. So it's interesting. It's kind of the same way for you. I think that's just going to be, if you love the game, that's just what happens.
That's one of the reasons I'm so big on GameFi, because I've been trying to compare it to just DeFi. Like the DeFi governance tokens, you don't really use them when you're using that application. Like stuff like Uniswap or like SushiSwap, you don't really need the tokens to trade on the DEXs. Like there's a demand on the speculative side. Like I'm betting on crypto doing well, and I think that these DEXs are going to do well and have like a lot of users. But when you incorporate the gaming aspect to it, you have a whole new side of demand that doesn't really exist with typical governance tokens. Like everything that's, like you said, in game, if like, I want to be the best, I want to have the best team. In DeFi Kingdoms, all the people that are actively playing, that money goes back into the ecosystem. So the money that you spend on summoning heroes, a portion of that goes to like the quest rewards that you do. So you get certain rewards from quests. Like I said, trading on the DEX, part of that goes to people who stake in the bank. So I think that if you are able to create an in-game economy where the demand is not purely speculative, but it's also from people who enjoy playing the game, that's what separates GameFi from DeFi. And that's why it has, like, I think personally, that's why it has an advantage in doing well in the future. I think a lot of people are going to try and gamify things to capture the attention of people.
What's the size of DeFi Kingdoms and the Jewel token versus something like Axie? Like, are they still, is it half the size or is it almost as big now?
I think off the top of my head, I want to say that Jewel is around 600, 700 million, fully diluted, maybe like 3 billion, I think. And I think Axie is maybe like 1 billion and then 4, somewhere around there off the top of my head.
I'm gonna look up. Yeah, you're actually really close. Yeah, 500 million for Jewel.
Okay.
AXS is like, maybe it's still 1 billion. I don't know. Things are down so much.
Yeah, they're down decent a bit. Yeah,
dude, this is gonna blow your mind. Axie Infinity market cap, not even fully diluted, is 4 billion. So with
really,
Jewel,
wow.
Yeah, so with Jewel at 500 million, yeah, almost like a tenth of the size, an eighth of the size. I'm curious then. I became obsessed with Axie. I told you all the reasons why. I think anyone who was in that last year did really, really well. I mean, there was people buying it for cents on the dollar. They were buying it for like 10 cents. It was trading on Binance for a while like that.
Yep. Before
Delphi came in and worked their magic. Obviously, that thing went to like $200. So big win for me, even bigger win for other people. But like everything, it declines, right? Like, and Axie's taking a big hit. I think for the first time in a long time, they're not getting millions of new users, but for a moment there, it was the most used thing in crypto. Whether or not people like that, whether or not people like the play to earn concept, it was funny like how slept on it was, and I think DeFi Kingdoms is as well. Of like, people just ignore it because they think play to earn's a scam or something. Before we even go to that though, I'm curious, like one thing that kind of I think has been a challenge for Axie, and they're trying to work through it right now, was the reason it was so successful at the beginning was they were able to get these a lot of nations in Southeast Asia, a lot of developing nations. It was better for people to play the game because they could earn more money playing this than they could working a normal job. And it was actually incentivizing people. It was a very natural, organic way to grow the game of people said, holy shit, I can play this game and make more money than I could elsewhere. Or it's a nice supplement to what I'm making. Obviously, eventually that trails off because it wasn't as profitable. Like as too many people joined the system, it wasn't self-sustaining enough. Maybe they weren't earning enough revenue for people that just like to play for fun. How do you think, or do you think DeFi Kingdoms is going to be able to kind of approach that hurdle better? Like in crypto, it's like once a project does something, like Uniswap does something, SushiSwap was the next iteration. So there's always like whatever comes after, they always try to improve. Like, do you think DeFi Kingdoms has a little bit better magic or a little bit better system where they've somehow figured out how to make this more self-sustaining? Or do you think it's it's going to run into a similar problem of Axie of like, once it gets too big, it's like, holy, how does everyone actually keep earning?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that they will be able to. It's kind of one of the bets that I'm making. Like I haven't followed Axie as closely as I've followed DeFi Kingdoms. Like I've been in the Discord since like September. Like I've done all the calls. Like I know the team. So and they're very meticulous with like how they go about planning things and making sure that the like economy is functioning well. They're like really focused, really detail oriented on like making sure things work well, and like they don't ship stuff extremely fast when they think it might be not ready yet. I think that it's really on the team to figure out how to make that economy sustainable. And I think that's like a really big focus for them, just from what I've seen. I do know that in the future they want to have scholarships like Axie did, or like Axie does. And the way I think that would happen for DeFi Kingdoms is like renting out your heroes to allow people to quest with them. So that's kind of like how similarly to how you could like rent out Axies and have people do stuff. But the game is still early stages. Like PvP is not out. Land is not out. Well, land is partially out, but land is not like being used by guilds yet. I think what's really interesting to me is if they're able to successfully do this on multiple different blockchains. So like if they're successfully on AVAX and Harmony and there are guilds active on each of these chains, I think it's a lot easier for that ecosystem to be sustainable, because really what you need is you need people spending in game to compete against each other, and then you need like smaller players who are just playing purely to earn and get like the APR or whatever it is in the gardens or on their heroes. So it's like really a balance there between like the spenders and the people who are purely playing for profit. And I think in the games that do it the best way, it's not going to be like, you're not going to be thinking about like, oh, how much am I making right now playing the game? Like you're going to be playing the game because you enjoy playing the game. And I think we've kind of seen that a little bit with DeFi Kingdoms. Like I know there's a decent community on Twitter that really enjoy playing the game. That's kind of how I am. I think I'm very in the red on my heroes. Like I haven't sold most of them. Like that's like that spent cost in game. I think I've spent more than like anybody else building my army of people. So yeah, I do think they'll be able to, but I think it'll be interesting to see. It's definitely going to be hard to do that. Like to have an in-game economy be sustainable for a long period of time is difficult for sure.
Right. It's like you almost have to rely on a developer. I mean, like even the Axie team, like I give them all the credit. I think they will solve it, but you're basically tasking like Jiho, who leads that team, and Sky Mavis, and the guys leading DeFi Kingdoms. You're tasking them with building an economy. So it's the same way that, yeah, it's the same way, yeah, that our central bank and, we're a lot more complex, but like the same way that they have this impossible task of like making sure everything's doing well and people are employed and everyone can make enough money. It's like, okay, let's rely on one team of developers now to try this again from scratch. So like I give them, all the credit and I hope someone can succeed in doing it, but obviously it's going to be a lot of trial and error. I want to ask you more generally about play to earn, because it's such a divisive thing, like especially with traditional gamers, how much they hate NFTs, but also within crypto, it feels like a sector that's just hated or slept on for some people, because maybe they didn't play a lot of games, or maybe they just think the mechanics. I really don't even know. Like I struggle to find a reason why some people won't at least take some time to dive in, because they've been some of the most lucrative plays. But I want to get your thoughts on this. There's two kind of different types of play to earn out there, I think, that can exist. The first one is, in a perfect utopia, we have games like Fortnite, FIFA, Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, and as you play them, if you're good at the game, you get rewarded. Like that'd be great if we had the best games in the world. If you spend a lot of time playing them, you can make some money. If you don't want to make money, that's fine, right? Like there's some traditional gamers that are like, why are they trying to financialize this? It's like, look, man, if you don't want to hit withdrawal at the end of your session, that's fine. That's okay. But just the option of being rewarded for playing a game is cool. And it's cool because right now all the money goes to the top players. Like there's the top 0.1% of all Call of Duty players makes all the money. And then everyone else that plays just plays for fun. So that would be optimal. Obviously, we don't have that, though. We have the second type of play to earn, which is what exists right now. And that's these games, quote unquote, where some people look at them and they say, they look at Axie. Kobe has a really funny quote on this that I disagree with him on, but I do see his viewpoint. And he's like, look, man, right now we have this play to earn where it's these people in developing nations that have to just sit here and click buttons all day, hopefully to pay off their scholarship. And it's like this dystopian thing we've created. But my kind of opinion is, look, it's like, I actually do play the game for fun. I know some people look at Axie or DeFi Kingdoms and say, I don't want to sit there and play a game all day for money. But I don't know if we can judge and say, these people, it sucks for them. They have to sit inside playing Axie all day to make money. It's like, what if that's better than them going to do manual labor or something else? Like, I know it's not the perfect scenario yet. We don't have Fortnite and it can be that much fun and you can make money. Right now we have like this in-between where it's not fully developed games maybe, but it's the first iterations. What are your kind of thoughts on people that say play to earn's a scam? Like this is bad. We shouldn't be doing this. It's dystopian. Because that take just doesn't make sense. I understand it's not fun for everyone, but I still think it's such a cool experiment. And even in the worst case where people are playing it, they don't want to, I still think it's beneficial for them. Like I don't see the other side, but I'm curious how you look at that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think there's like main like two things. I think that these games really, some of them are play and earn, and some of them are purely play to earn. So the games that are play and earn, like you said, the first set, where people are really playing because they enjoy it and like, okay, they'll make some money also. But then like the play to earns, I understand it's like if it's purely a click farm and it's like, okay, like this is not a game. This is just like finance. This is like a finance, what's the word? It's like basically low wage digital work. I think the people that are really averse to it are people who never really enjoy games anyway. And then they kind of see like the dystopian side of it and they're like, oh, well, this is not good. But I don't think they really see the upside in the way that it allows players to really own like all the digital assets in game, and as well as make money while doing it. I don't think it's, I mean, I'm not saying, I don't want to say it's not a valid critique, but I can see why. I think that the reason why is because like these games are not really fun yet, but I think that they will be fun in the future. And then like once that happens, then I don't really think it'll be as big of a gripe that people have.
Right. It won't be talked about as much. I also think maybe the reason I've kind of brushed that concern off, and as you said, I do think it's valid, because some of the games, I could see how watching someone play Axie isn't fun. I find it fun because I kind of find it like poker. It's like a constantly evolving game and these other things. But I could see how someone might not find it fun. My take is, though, it's like the market will solve that in a way. If a game is strictly play to earn and it's just a click farm, and it can't somehow attract new players. One of the reasons these games do need fun players and people that find the game fun is because if they don't find them, then it's just the game. You can think of it like a marketing expense. Like the game is paying people to play, basically. That is the play to earn. The money comes from somewhere. So if games can't attract those other players, eventually the player pool stops, because the players that are just click farming and are forced to play in that dystopian future, they won't be making enough. So if a game like sticks like that, that's why I find it funny. It's like we're not going to end up in a world where we have a corporate overlord that's making us all click a button to make money. It's like that corporate overlord will run out of money. Like you do need a pool of players to find it fun. So I will agree we're not there yet. But I always find that criticism fun. I was curious how you took that.
I think we'll get there, man. Like I think that, like you said, the ones that aren't built properly, they'll go away.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a big issue.
Yeah. The market has a way of solving it. All right, last one, and this one's a bit obvious based on our last point. It's your last point. You laid out 5 of these as we go through 2022. You saying metaverse, I mean, basically just that the metaverse will be big, right? Consistent transition to more Web3, companies realizing it, that obviously leading to an influx of users, and not people just tweeting that Web3 will be big, not VCs just saying it on Twitter, but the average person agreeing it will be big. Have you seen some of the UFC's comments or YouTube's comments about they're going to be allowing metaverse gaming, and what do you make of that?
Dude, I feel like I see something every week now. It's like, oh, this company is allocating this much to the metaverse. This company is allocating this much to the metaverse. Like this company wants to do this and this with NFTs. Like I wrote that and I was like, okay, it's going to be gradual throughout the year. Like we're going to see it but it's like been like immediate. Like everybody is like Web3, Web3, Web3. I'm really interested in how they approach it. Like if they're going to build their own or try and build their own internal things and like incorporate crypto with them, or if they're going to support like existing things, existing like decentralized teams and really help them and fund them. I think it's really, really interesting because when I see these companies say we're investing in the metaverse, I actually tweeted this earlier. I was like, what are you guys investing in? Like what does that mean? I need to see like what the game plan is for what they're actually doing. We talked about this on like last Untitled Crypto podcast a little bit too. But like Meta, Facebook is kind of leading the charge with this. Like they changed their entire name to Meta. And they like we are the metaverse. We're going to provide this to users. So I think it's interesting how these companies are doing it, but they really need, and I said this the other day, they really need to target like that younger cohort, like that younger group. Because it's not the older people that are going to be the first ones in the metaverse. It's going to be like the TikTokers, the people playing Roblox, the people playing Minecraft, like stuff like that. That's really what's going to appeal to them. But yeah, it's happening so fast. I don't know. I'm really kind of surprised at how fast it's happening.
It was really tough for companies for whatever reason. I understand the reasons actually to get behind Bitcoin or ETH. Like there's just a lot of narratives of it's money laundering or it's evil or it's bad for the dollar. So a lot of companies always held off on Bitcoin. I mean, they still do. A lot of companies kind of still try to distance themselves from crypto. For whatever reason, though, NFTs and Metaverse, if you just change the name of crypto, they're like, oh, hell yes.
It's like, oh, digital assets.
Yeah. They're like, that is what our company is built for. It's like, okay, well, you're still playing with the same systems. It's just a different name. Yeah. One of the coolest ones, though, I saw, I don't fully understand the YouTube's investment into the metaverse or what they were talking about. But the UFC said, I was listening to Dana White on a podcast, and he was saying they already have plans for their first virtual fight. And he didn't really give too many more details, but I'm kind of envisioning like one way they could do it is they're already selling out stadiums for fights. So in a way they could like double their ticket sales or really move it up to infinite of saying, look, if you buy this ticket, which would be an NFT, you could basically sit ringside at a fight. When you put on that, the VR headset, it's like you're actually at the fight. They could do fights that way, or you could be at the press conference. You could meet a fighter. You could ask a fighter a question. I'm thinking like there's some companies that are getting ahead of it, but as you said, it's a weird thing when you see a company like YouTube. They're like, we're investing in the metaverse. It's like, what is the metaverse? We need a thread.
If we don't know, then how do you guys know it? Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. But I like the UFC's thing, man. If a couple big companies are thinking about it right, I'm sure there's going to be one company that does it well. I don't think it's going to be Facebook. So, and it won't be the UFC's game plan. It's going to work for everyone. So like, I think one company will probably get it right, and other companies will say, all right, let's play that game. But yeah, it's going to be a weird trend to watch. It's another one of those trends where like you can be right on it, but how do I make money on this is the question.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you can be right about the shift, but how do you capitalize is really the question.
Yeah. That's a tough one. So, all right, those are 5. For everyone listening, there's some alpha for you. Z, before I let you go, because it is the weekend, I want to let you get to it. I want to, let you catch another Twitter ban. I know you like to have some beers and rip off some tweets.
On Tuesday, dude.
Let's go. So I don't want to get in the way of that. I want to rapid fire. You had some tweets lately that caused a bit of a shitstorm on Twitter. The first one was, I'm going to ask you, what are your favorite 5 cities? You tweeted this out. You said, what are your favorite 5 cities? I've never seen people so upset at each other for picking 5 cities. What are your 5 cities?
Dude, so I was asking a question because I don't really know. Like, I don't feel like I've traveled enough in the U.S. That's kind of what, like, one of the things I want to do this year. Like, I want to get around and see more cities that I haven't seen before. But let's see. My top 5, definitely Atlanta, New York, New Orleans, probably Miami, and then probably Vegas. Yeah. So mine are pretty basic.
No, I like that. New Orleans is dope too. That's one that I didn't actually think about, but last time I was in New Orleans, that was incredible. New Orleans is great.
So good. Food is so good in New Orleans, and I'm huge on seafood, so I loved it there.
New Orleans is great. Yeah, I replied SF. I will never tweet the words SF on Twitter again, man. People hate San Francisco, dude. People hate it, dude. It is universally hated. One of the most beautiful cities in the world with so much culture, and people just hate. I get it. Look, there's a lot of homeless people, but man, people hate SF.
Yeah.
All right. The other one I got for you. How do you keep tweeting? You put out yesterday. It's one of the things I kind of admire you for. That you got no filter on Twitter, and it's something that's really tough to do as you grow an audience on Twitter. And this is not just crypto. This is like anyone, and really on any platform. If you get a big podcast, you build a big YouTube, you build a big whatever. It's hard to keep doing what you were doing before. You've been able to do it. So how do you keep tweeting like you've always done it after growing a bit of an audience? You got 100,000 people watching you every day.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know. I just like when I'm tweeting, it's mostly a stream of consciousness. Like I don't know. I don't really have like planned things that I'm gonna tweet about. I just tweet about them as they come into my head, and it's kind of been how's how my account has grown. Honestly, like most of the time, last year I was tweeting about like coins I liked and other stuff, but also just tweeting the random stuff that I tweet every day. I don't know. I definitely have a lot more like people that hate on me now. I don't know exactly where they came from. Like I have some like random people come in my mentions every once in a while, like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, and I'm like, okay, well, why are you following me? I never said I was an expert on everything, so I don't know, man. I just go with the flow. I just tweet what I've been tweeting. It's actually my main like Twitter account. Like I never had a crypto Twitter. It's been my regular Twitter. So like all my boys and stuff follow me on the same account.
Well, I hope you keep doing it, man. A lot of people out there enjoy it. It's entertaining. Not only the alpha, but it's pure entertainment. Which leads to my next question: will you get put in Twitter jail again?
Because
you've been banned a couple times on Twitter. For people unfamiliar, there's been a couple times. Let's say maybe you had one or two beverages, and you let a troll have it, and that got you banned. Will you get banned again in 2022?
You need to put a line on this. Actually, you should put a line on it, like what the plus minus is.
I'd love to.
And we'll see what people say. I'm going to say no because I don't want to get my account fully banned. The last one, there was some drunk rant. I was talking to somebody. I also drunk tweet a lot. That's like another thing that I do a lot. But I got banned for like a week, and I was like, I've never gotten banned for a week before. I don't want to get banned for like ever. So I'm gonna try avoid it. I have another account where I tweet drunk stuff from. So I'm gonna try to stay over there.
That's risk management right there. Risk management in 2022 is having a backup. Dude, before you got banned on your last one, I actually commented on that post and was like, I don't know. I think you should delete it. Next day, you were definitely gone. But
yeah, Sigma Sensei did too, and then I like replied to him, and then he got banned too.
Yeah,
yeah.
We'll see, man. That's gonna be an interesting line for anyone listening. Make a line out there. I'm gonna need some real nice odds if I'm taking money on that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And then the last one, a little bit more serious on this one. What's one tip that you think is going to help people make it in 2022? We obviously talked about your 5 themes. Beginning of the show, you kind of talked a little bit about what helped you have a good year last year, but what do you think if you had to give one piece of advice or what you're trying to do for yourself in 2022?
I think the biggest thing is to be open-minded, man. That was like a huge thing for me last year, just being able to adapt to new trends. Like that's how I caught Axie, even though I was late. That's how I caught the L1 trend, even though I was like late. Like I missed BSC, and I was like, okay, well, Solana and other stuff still exists. Didn't catch Axie at the very beginning, but I was like, okay, it's still a trend that's happening. I'm going to pay attention to that. And that also helped me catching DeFi Kingdoms and other GameFi stuff. So I would say the biggest thing is to really be open-minded with new things that are happening. And if your first thought is that doesn't make sense, you need to think about if that's the consensus that everybody's saying that doesn't make sense. Because if there's a few people that are like, no, that's actually a really good idea, that's when you get in at the ground floor before everybody else, before it's like a consensus trade. Because like right now, the L1 trade is a consensus trade. In the early last year, it wasn't the consensus trade. I think that the consensus trades never really do the best out of all of them, which is why it's really important to stay adaptable in crypto because stuff is always changing. Like if you would have long DeFi on Ethereum for all of last year, which was like the consensus trade going into it after DeFi summer, like did 100x, did so well. If you would have kept that thesis for all of 2021, you would have done horrible. Like you would have outperformed or underperformed most majors. So I would just say definitely be open-minded, always be looking for new things. And the modular stuff is going to be really important, even though it's not as important now. I think that a mistake some people are going to make is that since rollups are not really being utilized versus other L1s currently, they're going to not pay attention to them and that architecture in the future, and they're going to miss stuff. So I think that I would definitely pay attention to that. And then you have time for that because I don't think it's really going to happen until like next year. But don't get locked into that mindset of rollups are trash. Like nobody uses rollups. So I wouldn't get locked into that.
I feel like you're talking to me with that one because I said that earlier. I'm gonna need some
people, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna need some time with that. Yeah.
So yeah.
At least we have time. All right, Ansem, I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much for coming on, dude. I'm glad we got to do this. Nice to meet you as well. We've never hopped on a call, so if you start traveling in the U.S., you want to explore, come through my city. I'll buy you a beer or 10. I'll take away your phone so you can't get banned while you're here.
As long as
be a good time, man.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. It was fun. Cool.
Appreciate it, dude. We'll talk soon.
All right, man.